The ocean's surface looks like a lawless, borderless expanse, but underneath that illusion of absolute freedom lies a meticulously zoned legal matrix. Every square mile of global water is governed by the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea, or UNCLOS, finalized in 1982. It acts as the constitution for the oceans. This mind map illustrates the massive structural scope of UNCLOS. We are focusing right here on two crucial branches: national jurisdiction and the rules of innocent passage. The core premise of this legal framework is that a coastal nation's sovereignty does not stop at the sand. It projects outward into the sea. But that projection isn't uniform. It functions as a geographic gradient. A state's absolute power over the water dilutes sequentially the further you move from the shore. To understand how global shipping actually navigates this system, we have to look at the strict mathematical rules used to draw these borders in the first place. The exact placement of these invisible lines dictates the balance between a coastal state's national security and the survival of global trade. The entire system starts with the baseline. This is the legal zero point from which all outward maritime zones are measured. For a stable, relatively straight coast, the math is simple. The baseline legally traces the exact low watermark of the physical shore. But geography is rarely simple. Deeply indented coastlines, fringing islands, or highly unstable river deltas make tracing a continuous low watermark impossible. To solve this, UNCLOS allows for straight baselines. This rule abstracts the physical geography, allowing nations to draw simplified, straight geometric lines connecting specific outermost coastal points. Take Article 9, which deals with river mouths. When a river flows directly into the sea, tracing the exact shore becomes ambiguous. The law simply draws a straight line across the natural entrance points of the river's banks at low water, sealing it off geometrically. Article 10 deals with bays, presenting a much more complex geometric challenge that requires a specific mathematical test. A mere indentation in the coast is not legally a bay. To qualify, it must pass the semicircle test. The area of the water inside the indentation must be equal to or greater than the area of a semicircle drawn across its mouth. Indentations like A and C here fail that requirement. If it passes the test, like B does, and the distance between its natural entrance points is 24 nautical miles or less, a straight closing line is drawn, legally closing it off. Even naturally formed low tide elevations, land exposed at low tide but submerged at high tide, can be used as baseline anchor points. The resulting baseline is a heavily engineered mathematical boundary, completely separate from the physical beach. It is designed to maximize a state's sovereign starting point before measuring out into the ocean. Once the baseline is engineered, we can project belegal zones outward into the water. Any water situated on the landward side of this baseline, including enclosed bays, ports, and river mouths, becomes internal waters. Sovereignty here is absolute. Foreign vessels have zero right of passage within internal waters without explicit permission from the coastal state. Pushing seaward from the baseline, we enter the territorial sea. This adjacent belt of water projects outward for a maximum of 12 nautical miles. Under Article 2 of UNCLOS, the coastal state's sovereignty in this 12-mile zone extends downward into the seabed subsoil and upward into the airspace. However, this is where a pivotal legal compromise occurs. Unlike internal waters, the territorial sea legally guarantees specific navigational rights to foreign ships. Beyond this 12-mile limit, coastal rights dilute further through the 24-mile contiguous zone, the 200-mile exclusive economic zone, and the continental shelf, eventually yielding completely to the high seas. Crossing the 12 nautical mile line toward the coast is a profound legal threshold. It is the exact point where absolute coastal power is legally forced to accommodate international movement. The mechanism that allows foreign ships through that 12-mile territorial sea is called the right of innocent passage. Article 18 mandates strict operational requirements. Passage must be continuous and expeditious, aimed solely at traversing the sea or proceeding to and from port facilities. A ship may only stop or anchor if it is incidental to normal navigation or due to distress and force majeure. Innocence itself is defined entirely by what a ship is forbidden to do. Passage must not be prejudicial to the peace, good order, or security of the coastal state. Engaging in weapons practice, collecting covert intelligence, causing willful pollution, or illegal fishing instantly revokes a ship's innocent status. This zone also strictly regulates underwater vessels. To maintain the right of innocent passage, submarines are legally required to navigate fully on the surface and prominently show their flag. Coastal states retain robust enforcement rights here. They can enact and enforce specific safety, environmental, and customs regulations within the 12-mile limit. If a vessel breaches these conditions, the coastal state can take necessary steps to physically prevent passage and can even temporarily suspend innocent passage in specific areas, if essential for its own security. This heavily regulated coastal buffer contrasts sharply with transit passage, a separate legal regime applied to specific strategic geographic straits that connect the high seas. Transit passage guarantees the non-suspendable right of unimpeded navigation through these vital geographic choke points. Crucially, it grants vessels, including military craft, the right to maintain normal operational postures. This means a submarine traversing a strategic strait is allowed to remain submerged, a posture that would be entirely illegal in standard territorial waters. Innocent passage protects the local security of the coastal state. Transit passage ensures that global superpowers and critical supply chains cannot be choked off by local geography. Zooming out from individual national boundaries, these maritime zones form a highly interconnected global legal system. This framework dictates the physical reality of modern global shipping and mass logistics. UNCLOS functions as a calculated legal compromise. It grants coastal states the authority to protect their security and environment through these strictly measured zones. By universally standardizing exactly where those zones end and prescribing how vessels must behave within them, the Convention prevents competing national borders from paralyzing global commerce. The technical engineering of the baseline, the exact geometry applied to river mouths and complex bays, is the structural linchpin that makes this global network function. It allows millions of tons of international trade to flow continuously through overlapping legal jurisdictions every single day. International maritime law provides the structural framework that balances the sovereignty of nations with the physical requirements of the global economy.